Welcome to Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, Living the Dream, a show that celebrates ordinary people who do extraordinary things. Hear what motivated them to attain their goals, see which circumstances molded their character and turned them into everyday heroes. Learn more about this show and the hosts for Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod TV and radio on Facebook. Now here are your hosts, the Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, Kathleen O'Keefe Cannabis and Lori Boyle.
Welcome to the Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. We have an incredible guest for you today. We have retired Brigadier General Anthony E. Schiavi, and we just enjoyed talking to him so much and sharing information with him that we wanted to bring him to you.
The highly decorated Brigadier General Anthony E. Schiavi retired from the United States Air Force and Massachusetts Air National Guard in 2013. The general flew 56 combat missions during Operation Desert Storm as an F-15 pilot. His wingman nickname is Chemo, which is short for the Lone Ranger's Kemosabe. His 30 years of exemplary military service and honed leadership skills demonstrate his ability to perform successfully on political, local, state, and national levels. After retirement, General Schiavi served as the Ashland Town Manager and Police Commissioner until 2016 and is currently running as a Republican for Cape and Island State Senate. Tony and wife Debbie, also an Air Force veteran, share amongst their family nearly 200 years of military service. They have 4 children, and their 2 grandchildren are 4th generation Cape Codders.
He is a special person, and thank you so much for being with us today to learn a little more about Brigadier General. I mean, that's impressive right there. Schiavi, welcome to the show.
Kat, thank you very much for having me. Lori, it's a pleasure to be here today and be able to talk with both of you and the audience.
Well, thank you.
Yes, we're inviting you to our Wicked Kitchen where we do our cooking shows, and this is actually the first interview we've ever done here, but we thought it would be a good idea to say come into our Wicked Kitchen and tell us why you want to be the state senator, and also the audience's kitchens, and sit down at their table and talk to them directly and say why you would like to be the state senator. But before we get started, I just want to let everyone know that I first met Tony at the Cape Pilots Association meeting, and that was like 2 months ago, I think, that we did that. And Tony came to the meeting and he gave the best presentation on leadership through change and talked about his achievements, and it was so impressive I just had to have him on the show.
Well, great. It's great to be here. Talking in the kitchen, I mean, how many great conversations we had over our lives in a kitchen. I mean, it's just so having the set up like this is really, I think, a great thing, and it'd be very stimulating, I'm sure.
Well, I believe that our kitchen is the heart of our home. So in a way, we're kind of bringing you into the heart of our home here on Cape Cod.
Great. Well, growing up in a nice Italian family, there was always plenty of activity in the kitchen, conversations, cooking, and so forth. So it's a very comfortable setting for me.
Now, you are a 4th generation Cape Codder, right?
Well, my grandkids are. I actually grew up in Holliston, so I've been on the Cape for about 25 years. But my wife was born here, or her father was born here, my wife was born here, her daughters were born here, and obviously the kids were born here too.
Yeah.
So the grandkids, so they're 4th generation Cape Codders.
Wonderful.
It's a great place to raise a family, and so I'm so excited that that they're here with us and raising their families just like we did. Yeah.
Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and your career, because it's
Quite
pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. I mean, I've been very fortunate
to know about that.
Sure. Yeah. No, my life has been very fortunate. So I grew up in Holliston, so I'm born and raised in Massachusetts. I went to Assumption College and got a degree in mathematics, and I went through ROTC at Holy Cross, and I went on active duty for about 10 years. I was actually a line officer first, and about 3 years in, I became a pilot, which was obviously my lifelong dream, and deployed to Desert Storm back in 1990 with our squadron, came back, and then I was stationed at Otis at the 102nd Fighter Wing, active duty, as an F-15 pilot, which was great. I was coming back to Massachusetts, and I never left. So they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I got off active duty and spent the next 20 years of my 30 years right here on Cape Cod at Joint Base Cape Cod, and eventually moved up through the ranks, became the wing commander of the base, and also helped them through the transition, if you remember, from a fighter wing to an intelligence wing back in 2005 through 2008. And then became the first executive director of Joint Base Cape Cod. And so that was a really, a special experience for me to do all of that. Then when I retired in 2013, I knew I wanted to continue to serve in government and became a town manager and police commissioner, although I had to commute off Cape like a lot of people do because our home's in Harwich and my wife was still working. But that was okay. It was a great experience and really, continued to foster my desire to serve even at a higher level, to bring all of my experience and leadership, and that's the reason I'm running for state senate, because I think I have a lot to offer and more to give.
Yeah, that certainly answers the question that Lori and I were asking of, rather than going out and just playing golf every day, because you're retired, you decided to do this, which takes a tremendous amount of courage, first of all, because you are running as a Republican, and let's face it, this is a Democratic stronghold, so my hat off to you. But also you just decided you weren't going to sit back and watch what was going on the Cape. You wanted to be involved in improving it and helping it move forward into the future.
Yeah, I've been throughout probably 20 of my 30 years. I've been working with local officials, state officials at the State House, our governors, as well as federal officials. And through that, I realized that we need good people in government. You can do good things to for your community that you work with. In the time that I was a town manager, I did a number of really interesting things in our community to help our community grow economically, housing, and worked with our state senator, our state representative, and saw how an interaction with state government can really bring things to a community. And so I really am looking forward to having that opportunity to be in the State House and to bring actually good things to Cape Cod and the islands to help address a number of issues I think that we know are sitting out there and need somebody to really advocate for the Cape and Islands.
Well, my impression, and Lori and I were discussing this morning too, the things that you want to do for Cape Cod, I do not see those as Democrat versus Republican. I see them as Cape Cod and American, and keeping us safe and helping Cape Cod become sustainable. And I think those are issues that everybody is interested in.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. When I go out and meet with people and I knock on doors, and I hear first and foremost, they want to feel safe and secure in their community. So I bring to the table, obviously, a lot of Homeland Security and public safety experience, and they want somebody that's going to advocate for them and to help them solve those things that matter most to them. And you're right, if you get elected, you're elected to serve everybody. And I think what I bring to the table is, through my military career and also my town experience, it's had to be done in a very nonpartisan way. You had to work with everybody. And an example of that was the base closure. So when we were working to turn that around and get new missions for the base, we had a Republican governor, we had a Democratic U.S. senator that then became a Republican U.S. senator, we had a Democratic congressman, but we all worked together because at the end of the day, it was about preserving our national security at the base that the base provides, but also to save the jobs for over 1,300 people and their families and to protect the economic impact that the base provides for the Cape, which most people don't realize is in excess of $330 million a year and nearly 4,000 direct, indirect, and induced jobs. That's a lot. For that base to close, it really would have a significant negative impact.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that I have the ability, I think, and have great relationships already at the State House with people that are currently sitting as representatives and senators on both sides of the aisle to work together to solve issues for the Cape and ensure that the Cape gets its due regard and recognition, because sometimes I don't think we get our fair share of things as maybe perhaps gateway cities and some of the other parts of Massachusetts do. So we need a strong advocate, and it's to advocate for everybody.
And one of those things that I know is on the top of a lot of people's minds is the opiate epidemic that we have, especially in Hyannis, but throughout Cape Cod. And so I was wondering, what do you think that you could do to perhaps address that issue?
Yeah, and there's still a lot to be done. First of all, most people today either know somebody directly or indirectly that's been affected by the opiate epidemic, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's a family member, whether it's a coworker. And we know that the Cape has been hit hardest in the Commonwealth in terms of the number of overdose deaths that have existed. Certainly the governor has started everything on, I think, on the right track in terms of, landmark opiate legislation. Some of the things he took to the National Governors Conference that other states are now emulating our legislation, but there's still a lot more to be done as it relates to that. Some recent statistics that just came out are still troubling. One of those being that over half of the overdose deaths this past year had fentanyl related to them, which is a synthetic type of thing that gets mixed with heroin and other drugs. And so, but Representative Tim Whalen and others, worked on legislation to make trafficking in fentanyl, a felony and a crime. And we need to continue to address those type of things. But it's really going to take a very comprehensive look because it covers so many different areas. I mean, it covers education, treatment, diversion, aftercare, public safety impacts. And so we're going to have to take a very comprehensive approach where I think long-term, hopefully where we go is through education and research, because if we can do the right things to prevent somebody from becoming addicted in the first place, you save all that, pain and agony on the individual and the family and what they go through, but also when you save in healthcare costs and public safety costs in that way. So I have some ideas about some legislation, one of those being to expand the amount of treatment offered through health insurance from 14 days to 30 days, and that's still not quite enough, but it's a step in the right direction, as well as also looking at those that take partial fills on their medications. Right now the federal law has been changing to allow that person to go back and get the remainder if they need it. The Massachusetts bill doesn't have that, so it may need a little bit of tweaking as we move forward, as well as looking at other things like the sheriff is doing with Vivitrol and that medication, and helping folks that are getting ready to go back into society and help to make sure those programs are funded as well. So I think there's a number of areas that we can take a look at because it is very high on my priority list to look at that, as well as more treatment beds. We need some of those on Cape Cod. I've talked to a woman that's working with a group on a program, if you will, called ASAPS. It's Addiction Support and Placement Stat, and it's based on a program in Boston. And so I want to talk to them some more. That may be something that would be able to be created here on Cape Cod to help those that are recovering, because we still need to think about them as well as we work on the front end of this issue to prevent it in the first place.
Those are fabulous ideas.
Yeah.
I know Thomas Milky had a film that he's trying to get into the school system here to help with all that. That's something that...
Was that the Not Yet film?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can educate children on exactly what's going to happen, how their lives are never going to be the same again, our kids are smart.
Sure.
They can figure it out if
Yeah.
you give them the education
Right.
and give them the tools to stay
Because
out.
I think they think that they can stay on the outside of it. They can do it a couple times and nothing's going to happen.
Right.
And that's a myth, that they really can get drawn in right away, even from the first time.
Sure.
And I think that movie points that out.
It does, and I think we've learned a lot about what methods of education work. If you remember when we were growing up, it was scared straight and a very negative approach to a lot of that. I think today it's more, I think a different approach to the education piece that actually will resonate, because sometimes when you take that negative approach, it almost creates them to think they want to take that risk. And I think we take a different approach now, and I think films like that will help to do that, so that we actually reach the younger people and everybody really. And the other part is research. I mean, I think we have some of the brightest minds in Massachusetts, both medically, educationally. If we can find some through research that certain individuals may be more susceptible to an addiction to opiates than others, then perhaps physicians can then offer non-opiate pain management techniques so that you prevent, again, that person from being addicted in the first place.
And that's so important. Right. So let's we're going to shift a little bit, and I want to get your thoughts on improving the economy on Cape Cod, because Lori and I were talking earlier also about how we have very, very bright students on Cape Cod. They go to Harvard, they go to Tufts, and then they go away. How can we bring them back?
So, and I would also expand to those that go to our tech schools and our trade schools to create jobs for them and additional opportunities. When I look at the economy of the Cape, it can be very fragile at times. I think we have to have a diversified economy. We have obviously tourism is a big part of our economy. Most people think it's the biggest part. Really, banking, finance, healthcare, Cape Cod healthcare, as well as municipal jobs are really above that. I think tourism, Winnie Norcross from the Cape Cod Chamber, I think, said that was actually third.
Really?
But it's an important part of our economy. We need to keep that strong. And we need to support our current businesses, but from a governmental perspective, I look at how do we set the right conditions to create jobs, year-round, sustainable jobs, well-paying jobs. And we have to look across the innovative economy, the creative economy, the sort of coastal or blue economy, so that we have a diverse set of job opportunities on the Cape. And so you have to make sure you have the infrastructure that can support all of that. And so those are the things where I think we need to make investments so that you can say Cape Cod's open for business, basically, because it's about quality of life. I had been to the Metro West Research Center called MERC a number of times and listened to their presentation. And today, employers it's all about recruiting and retaining good, top quality employees. And so quality of life is a big part of that. Well, look at the quality of life on the Cape. Great schools, great amenities, great place to raise a family. And so, there's attractions here for businesses if the infrastructure is there to help support that. But you also have to look at housing. So you could create jobs, but if you don't have affordable housing for this workforce to live in, then you have a disconnect. And so I tell folks everything is connected and interconnected. So if you create jobs, you need to create housing. It needs to be a diversified type of housing that fits really the gamut of the different life stages that people go through, including our retirees, right? And recognize young people today may be looking for a different type of housing than maybe we did as we came up through life. And then you need to connect that to transportation, right? We need a strong transportation network on the Cape. I'd like to see expansion of the Cape Cod RTA, but also expansion of rail service, because we can still have people that live here that are going to work off Cape, and if we can make it convenient for them to commute to their jobs other than getting stuck in traffic, which we all know what it's like going up Route 3 to Boston every day, but make it convenient for them and not have to drive up to Plymouth or what have you, again, can help to bring people to the Cape. So our daughter and her husband just moved back from San Diego. They both came back and they both found great jobs, one in the insurance business, another one at Cape Cod Healthcare. So there are jobs there. It's just making sure that there's that connection between jobs and housing and transportation, I think will be a key aspect of helping to grow our economy and support our business. So I have some thoughts there in terms of creating business, whether it's through tax incentives or maybe tax credits for those that are establishing businesses. The other part, small business is the backbone, I think, across the country really, not just Cape Cod. And so we need to look at regulations, because I think right now the Baker administration is looking at ways to sort of release the hands of government a little bit and let the market economy stand back and let it go. And so they're looking at regulations that maybe they need to be updated, that perhaps put a little bit too much of a stranglehold on those that are looking to create businesses. And the cost of starting up a business, I think, will help to generate that as well. So I have some ideas there also.
That's great, yeah.
And then since Cape Cod is such a conservation mecca for people, bird watching, animals, and all of that, the other problem is our wastewater and the problems with our environment and not polluting more than we have already done so.
Sure.
So I think the answer to the question that a lot of people are asking is, what are we going to be able to do? And I think they know how to do it, but it's just the expense.
Well, I think it's all of that, and I look at that too as the cost of wastewater in the entire Cape. I've heard between $5 billion, $7 billion. The price tag is huge. But I think if we take it down a notch and look at perhaps in digestible units, I call it, that there may be parts of the Cape that are right for traditional wastewater treatment options, maybe sort of the areas that are being most impacted by septic systems and nitrogen loading and phosphorus and the impact that has on our water quality and our bays and those kind of things, and the creation of algae and things. To also, there's a company on the Cape that's working now, I think, to look at an innovative way to treat wastewater through algae that actually creates a it creates energy as a byproduct.
Yeah,
So
wouldn't
that there's an area that if we could foster that, if this technology is viable, that there's an area to create jobs, also to take care of our environment, because sustainability is a really important issue for the long term. Remember, we're here to create futures for those that come after us, and to keep our water quality the best that it can be, because I look at it as resource protection. And then you look at other things. I just read an article recently where the town of Harwich is looking at sort of natural filtration of effluent from septic systems down in the Muddy Creek area, over in the Bank Street bogs, where if nature can take care of some of this, it could save hundreds of millions of dollars by not having to sewer certain homes. And so I think we have to look at a combination of a few different things to make sure that we're addressing the wastewater issues, and so I have some ideas there as well that can, again, to help. And we need to keep the state system, the state revolving fund that can give low interest or no interest loans for some of this infrastructure, as well as the length of time a homeowner may have to pay their loan back. Because I did hear from somebody recently, and I think it was up in Mashpee, gotten a bill for $18,000 because they had to connect a sewer. So that's a big bill that people look at, because your taxes are normally going up as well, and so that's a betterment that's going to be there for a long time. I think it was just recently extended to 30 years. We may even have to look longer, just because of the expanse of it and the expense of it on the Cape. So, but I'm very much look at our environment and sustainability as a major issue that needs to get addressed for the future.
And anytime we can work with our environment, that's I think that's so positive. So let's talk about our veterans. We were talking about that before the show started, because I'm a military brat. My dad was a Green Beret. So how do you plan to assist our veterans here on Cape Cod? And we have a lot of them.
We do. We have about 25,000 veterans on the Cape, and generally veterans suffer a higher degree of homelessness, joblessness, and suicide than the regular population does. I do sit on the state's commission for long-term care and housing for veterans, and so I have a passion for veterans anyways, and being on that committee and what we went through the last couple of years looking across the state and veteran issues for housing and long-term care, is to recognize as the veteran population changes to more of our Vietnam veterans now and those that came after that they have some different needs than perhaps our World War II veterans and our Korean veterans, and also women. Women veterans are becoming a larger percentage of our veteran population all the time, and as we visited some of the soldier homes, they're not set up for women. But I want to see more access to veteran services on the Cape. There are some already, which is great. I think that can be expanded so that they don't necessarily have to go off Cape to Providence or Brockton, where they get great care, but can we create some of that here on Cape Cod for our veterans, given that we have so many, and also work on their housing. We have a number of homeless veterans on the Cape that don't have housing right now. There's not enough for them. So just last week, myself and Will Crocker, who's running for state rep, rolled out a plan for what's called permanent supportive housing for the homeless, a piece of that being obviously to take care of our veterans, but potentially using some underutilized housing at Joint Base Cape Cod to perhaps house some folks there.
That.
Yeah.
I was just going to say
but,
We're going back in the military.
there you go. Well, for our veterans, I mean, it could create a sort of a familiar surrounding for them if they need that. I mean, there's a lot we have to flush out with that through perhaps a feasibility study to make sure we understand all the intricacies of that. But I'm an idea guy. I'm an action guy. I have no problem with putting something out there and pursuing options. That's, I think, an important part of the job, is to help to foster that. And nobody has the market on good ideas. So when you go out and meet people in the community, they have great ideas. So I think sometimes people think, oh, my state senator is going to solve all my problems. I go out and say, what do you think? And I really want to spend more time listening than really I do want to spend talking, so that I can really pull those ideas out of people and say, hey, that's a really good idea. Let's talk about that. And I think people find value. There's more buy-in when you do that, because they have a sort of a vested interest in it. And there's some ownership involved in that, and that's the way I've always run my career. I want to let my people, you guys come up with the great ideas, and I'll be the cheerleader to help bring it to fruition. If you need to bring funding to it, or you need to bring some other aspect where there's legislation to make it work, let's try it.
And you've got, between you and your wife, I think I read somewhere, you've got like 200 years worth of experience.
Well, not between her and I. That would make us about 100 each. But in our two families, we have 200 years of Air Force service. My father was in the Navy, so we add that in, and we're over 200 years of military service between our two families.
Wow,
That's
wow.
wonderful.
So that is some incredible education that he's got all right there to help us with here on Cape Cod.
Trust me, I get plenty of input from them too. So.
Yeah, I'll bet you do.
Yeah.
I'll bet you do. We want to have your wife and your daughters
Sure, they're part
on
of my
the show.
cheerleading team.
Yeah, because we want to know what they think about you.
There you go. All right.
That would be fun.
I'd be happy to ask them. Yeah, great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your service and the future service you're going to give the
thank you.
Cape and Islands, and a very brave man, and I mean, just to come on our show. But
Oh, it's great. I mean, you guys have been
Housewives.
wonderful hosts, and there's been my time in the military. I mean, I received the Federal Women's Award for mentorship of women back in during my military career. So, it's important as we go out and create jobs and all of that we look across the board to help everybody that's trying to get out there and support their families and that sort of thing. So. It's been a pleasure to be on the show, and I'm sure you get great viewership. So,
Well, we
look forward to
try.
the-
We have fun doing this show. We have a great time. But yeah, thank you so much for coming into our kitchen, which is the heart of Cape Cod, Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod, and sharing this time with us with
Great.
some great information here. And it certainly helped me understand some of what you're doing, which because I really could not understand why someone who is a Republican would want to go into a Democratic Senate with your back up against the wall, and I suddenly understand it's not because you're not really going in so much as a Republican as somebody from Cape Cod who cares and wants to make a difference.
Yeah, because again, you have to serve everybody in your community. Obviously, from a fiscal standpoint, I think we need to do a better job in being transparent in our state government, what we're doing with taxpayer dollars. And really, Governor Baker, I think, as a moderate Republican, has done a great job in working across, party lines to do the right thing for Massachusetts, the right thing for people of Massachusetts, and making sure we're taking care of our citizens and, creating that future. We want to make sure that Cape Cod stays a great place to live, to work, to raise a family, and to retire. And so that, you have to look at that whole spectrum of that. And I really, feel I have a lot to offer in that regard to help create that future.
And I agree, because he's been everywhere. Brigadier General Schiavi has been everywhere, so he knows what he can bring into Cape Cod to address the issues that need to be addressed. So I think that's important.
Great, thank you.
thank you so much for being here. We so appreciate it, and we urge everybody to vote. Get out and vote.
Yeah, so maybe we can put out there right now. So the primary is on September 8th, so it's really important. It's a Thursday, not a Tuesday.
Okay.
So that may catch some people by surprise. So hopefully everybody get out and vote in the primary. You need to cast your vote to, like I say, if you don't vote, it's hard to complain, So hopefully
right.
folks will get out. But it is the Thursday after Labor Day, so it's a little bit different of a time frame than what we're used to.
All right, is there anything else you want to tell them about that they might need to know, or is that?
Other than vote for Tony Schiavi,
Yeah.
please look at our website, votetonyschiavi.com. Is our website. We're up on Facebook. There's a lot of information there. Our email's available. If anybody has questions about anything, I'd be happy to answer
And
those.
so and your website, can you give us that website?
Sure, it's www.votetonyschiavi.com. So that's all. Vote Tony Schiavi is all one word, and you should be able to find us.
Great.
All right. Wonderful.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. It's been great.
Yes,
thank you.
and we've been delighted to have you. And we just want to thank Tony for his service and for his bravery. And thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining Lori Boyle and Kathleen Cat O'Keefe Canvas on Wicked Housewives on Cape Cod. Don't forget to like us on Facebook for our show updates, and join us next time when we showcase more everyday heroes.